In this next segment, there is going to be a presentation by Ms. Sunita Rajan, who is Senior Vice President of CNN International Commercial Asia. And in this upcoming presentation, among other things, the presentation is going to talk about how a destination can be promoted through gastronomy. And the presentation is going to begin with a video. So if we are ready, let's take a look at this video presentation.
We should be on the air at 6 o'clock.
Excellencies, Mr. Su Jing, our dear friend from the UNWTO Asia Pacific, Dr. Mario Hardy, ladies and gentlemen, leaders from across the tourism and gastronomy world, welcome to a little commercial break from CNN. I am very delighted to introduce you to Sunita Rajan, who's the Vice President of CNN, which means by implication, you are not here to listen to me. You are here to listen to the expert. So I'm delighted to share with you Sunita Rajan. We've changed this up a little bit. Originally, this is going to be a presentation by Sunita. But then Sunita came up with the great idea of saying, why don't we rather do this as a conversation? And Sunita, being a client and a partner of mine that I've had for many years, of course, my only answer was, yes, dear. So with that, Sunita, I hand over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita. It's a delight, and I love to be back in Bangkok in Thailand. But first and foremost, I must say thank you to UNWTO. We are a very proud and a very active affiliate member, but we also invest quite heavily in our strategic partnership, and that brings us here today and the opportunity to speak to you and also to share a little more about our story and how we put a lens on gastronomy and gastronomy tourism. So thank you, Anita.
Thank you. Sunita, I'd love to get your understanding of why are you an affiliate member? Why is this relationship important to you and CNN?
I think if we look back at the history of CNN, we are 37 years old since Ted Turner launched the network. We recognize the importance of travel and tourism. We recognize the importance of not just the movement of people, but also the economic story, the business story, the development story. And this has been a category, if you like, that we've been very heavily focused on, not just from the commercial point of view, but also, and very largely from an editorial point of view. This relationship and our partnership with UNWTO and the ability that we have at CNN as a global brand to be able to offer not just a platform, but insights and input into what shapes some of the bigger stories in the travel economy, in travel and tourism, is a very important part of what we do. Our DNA is storytelling. Everybody knows that. And we bring that storytelling to our partners, and UNWTO is definitely one of them.
Brilliant. Sunita, one thing that's interesting as well, and we're in a very competitive part of the world. We're also in a part of the world that, as an example, Mother Nature tends to take out her fury. And CNN, from your experience, what role has it had to play in not just building destinations, but helping to rebuild them?
We take our investment and our focus on a particular sector very seriously. And with travel and tourism, one of the things that I think we found we are very privileged to have is the level of relationships and the conversations that we get invited to and that we have, which allows us the seat at the table, if you like, to provide, I guess, advice, consultancy, but also help. And I think that's quite important. So for us to partner with, whether it's countries or cities or governments in good times and bad times, but also more importantly, to be able to come to the table with the opportunity where if there is a disaster or an emergency or a need for a country or a destination to revive and reignite their tourism, we offer that opportunity. We do that through TASK, which obviously you lead on for CNN as a strategic advisor. And that comes with both a media fund that we just recently announced November last year at the World Travel Mart, but it also comes with the expertise and the time that we invest to be able to shape some of that advice.
Brilliant. Question for you. Help us understand, when we talk about the storytelling of CNN, there's two sides, because you come from the commercial side.
Yes.
And there's also the editorial side. How do those hands clap, or do they?
They do. And, you know, we do maintain very much the church and state, as you would call it. But there is a dialogue and collaboration on both sides. I think ultimately we keep the audiences at the front and center of everything we do. And we begin with that. And everybody in this room obviously cares about their consumers, their guests, their travelers, their customers, its audiences. And that's what we keep front and center of all of our thinking. The collaboration and the dialogue and the discussion that we have on content or storytelling, while we each do our own piece, it comes together in so much as we recognize the importance when it comes to turning a spotlight on a country, or there is a particular event that we feel is important and will be a milestone. I'll give you an example. About 2 years ago, we, in a combined fashion between editorial and commercial, we felt there's a big need for us to focus on Japan. Everybody knows how well stories from Japan do. There's always a heightened level of curiosity and interest in storytelling on Japan, and particularly video. But we also recognize that Japan and Tokyo in particular, but also other prefectures, have two very important events coming up: the World Cup Rugby next year and Tokyo 2020. And we've been telling stories on Japan for over 2 decades, new stories, but also other stories. But we came together and we felt it's important for us to put a stake in the ground, so to speak, and have a commitment to tell stories about Japan on a global stage for the next 3 years. And with that came the idea of what we call Japan Now. Because we've seen from, with Prime Minister Abe and the economic side, from the business side, from the travel and tourism side, certainly, and the ambitious goal that Japan has for 2020, that there are a number of stories that global travelers and international audiences need to know about in preparing for when they travel to Japan, not just in 2020, but now and then even beyond that. And so that's how we come together. But the integrity, the trust, and the authenticity of the storytelling, whether that's from an editorial point of view, which is done by our features team called CNN Vision, or whether it's on the commercial side, which is done by our brand studio, Create. They've been around for about 10 years or more. They are our in-house agency, and we have had the ability and the opportunity to work with a number of brands, a number of countries, a number of destinations, but other corporate brands as well, to help them tell their story. And I have a video that I'd love to show, which gives you a bit of a flavor of what they do.
I think he wants us to go with him.
Where? What's the point?
I'm going. You do what you like.
Okay, have fun. Send me some pictures.
Art, to me, is anything that can provoke an emotion.
Discovering how our experiences and philosophies define our lives and our happiness.
We are offering to the world a wonderful experience.
If you think about it like some guy in a wheelchair skydiving, that doesn't seem possible.
They're also not only teaching us, they also empower us.
We're not looking just to meet global standards. We're rewriting and raising the bar ever higher.
I think what holds true through a lot of those campaigns that you saw and many more is that we get under the skin of the story. And I think that's important. I think brands, destinations, and certainly our clients come to us because they recognize the value of our brand of storytelling. And at CNN, it's very important for us to be able to demonstrate why we're different and how we're different. Because today, as I know a number of the panelists talked about earlier today, it's not about just scale. It's about how do you tell the story and do it differently. And with that, how do you drive the audience engagement and their need to want to know more. And we deliver that obviously through multiple platforms, which also helps.
To that point, because I think what's interesting, and this session being about how destinations are brought to life through gastronomy tourism and the media, as we've just seen from the previous session, as much as we have billions of people in the world, they all want the one-to-one contact. So CNN is traditionally known for television. How have you needed to evolve to be able to keep it one-to-one and personal, and yet make it one to hundreds of millions?
Yeah, it's a common kind of belief, and obviously we're known for being all about breaking news and being an international news channel on television. But what is true is that today we are where our consumers are. And that's taken vision, it's taken investment, and it's taken a commitment to make sure that our story is seen and consumed and heard across platforms. Our investment in digital and technology has been phenomenal, particularly in the last, I would say in the last 5 years. And we've even gone a step further, because I think just saying that you have a digital product or saying that you're investing in technology is just not good enough anymore. What's important is that you are able to provide data, you're able to provide insights rather than just reach, and you also are able to iterate and develop new products where you see that there is an opportunity, but also where you see that there is a need to be able to complete the picture for your brand. CNN, for those who live in the US and also know us from being in the US, sometimes is perceived as being a brand for an older audience, which is true. Our average age in the US is above kind of 50, 55. But what's not known, which is kind of a hidden gem, is the fact that we attract a very high percentage of millennials across our news platforms on television.
Over and above Mario, the other millennials.
Yeah. And we do that in two ways. I guess the way in which we have attracted those audiences is for two reasons. One, we've invested in what we call our non-news programming or non-news content. And we do a lot of it. That sits in what we call features. It sits in original films, in original series, which have been tremendously successful. Anthony Bourdain and Parts Unknown in the US, and for those of you who are fans of his, and Roads and Kingdoms, you'll know how popular his series has been, which has also allowed us to kind of lower the demographic and the age of our audiences in the US. But internationally, we recognize that there is an audience who are young, who are connected, who are engaging a lot with video, and who are looking for interesting, surprising video stories. And therefore, Great Big Story, which was born in 2015. And for those of you who haven't consumed the product, haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to go to the website, because it's some amazing stories that are told in a very unique fashion. And these stories may have been told before, but the way in which Great Big Story tells them makes them really unique. It's available through your social feeds. You can download it on your Android or iPhone. And why I mention Great Big Story is because for the first time in over 3 decades, CNN launched a cinematic storytelling video network, which was very deliberate. We didn't name it, or it doesn't carry the 3 red and white letters of our logo. And the reason for that is because it's set up as a separate company, a separate entity. There are millennials who run it, who research, who produce content. And it's meant for that audience. It's meant for a younger audience who are not looking for a very overt brand or advertising-led product. And so the way in which we work with countries and with brands is a very unique partnership that we've created. In fact, here in Thailand, we've done some amazing work with Great Big Story, where we've carried stories about food, which we did last year. And that was because there was very much a focus, obviously leading up to today, on gastronomy and food tourism. So I guess where I'm coming from is the fact that we're ubiquitous. We're not just a television network anymore. We're TV, we're digital, we're social. We're more than media, we're content. And we help brands tell stories. And in the tourism space, personally, what I have witnessed and been part of is that food increasingly is one of the strategic pillars and one of the themes. So it used to be culture, it used to be heritage, it used to be adventure. For some countries and destinations, it was the spiritual circuit, the tours, but now it's very much food.
And to that point, as you said, CNN has evolved from being about news to being about now overall media. And you've also launched CNN Travel, which is a whole new investment. As someone who's on the outside, yet blessed to work with you on the inside, the last few years have been a little bit, for lack of better words, scary/courageous. Because getting into digital, getting into that millennial market, getting into travel is very beyond the original DNA and roots of CNN. Why would you make this investment?
Actually, I'd kind of disagree with that and challenge that. If you think about our brand proposition, it's go there. That's the promise, and that's the DNA of the brand. We go where the story is. And so travel, by definition, is a very natural extension. We've had CNN Travel in some shape or form for a long while. For those of you who remember, we used to have a product and a website called CNN Go, which then evolved into what we have today, which is a travel website. And I think what is important is, again, if you do it well, but not only do it well, you've got to be different. So dare I say it, and with full respect to the colleagues on the previous panel and the panels earlier today, we're not about reviews, we're not about lists, we're not about rankings. We're about travel journalism, and that's what we do. That's our business. We have experts who author and write for us, but we also go where the story is, and we uncover what is interesting about a destination. The website CNN Travel is very much focused on destinations, and within that, we are very interested in telling stories that our audiences, who are the global international travelers, would be interested in reading when they come to us for news. So this is kind of extending the agenda of news. And so the stories have got to be not just authentic, they've got to be interesting to the business and leisure traveler. That's important.
You, as the internal expert of working with a country like Japan, had a challenge recently of having 2 clients from the same market, from the same category, wanting to communicate to the world, and you had to find a way to do it differently. I'm going to show a couple of videos, and I'd love for you to just explain how this came about.
Sure.
Japan evokes a powerful sense of wonder in anyone who goes there. Wonder at the seamless blend of ancient and modern, and wonder at the most remarkable food in the world. I spent 2 years traveling all over Japan, researching and writing rice noodle fish. What I learned inspired me beyond the astounding quality of Japanese food. Japanese food is not just about the flavors and techniques, but the extraordinary context behind every meal.
Oishii.
If I have to define Japanese culture, it would be this: the details matter. Getting the details right takes time and a willingness to take the long, difficult route. Above all, it takes a patience and a humility that most cultures don't possess. This Japanese work ethic is embodied in the shokunin, master craftspeople dedicated to the slow, quiet pursuit of perfection. Most Japanese incorporate elements of a shokunin. It is the same patience and humility expressed in their sense of hospitality. It is an extraordinary feeling to experience Japanese hospitality. It is present in every meal, in every interaction with them, every gesture of care. Japanese hospitality is the invisible hand that drives every traveler's experience in Japan.
まあ私ぐらいの年齢でやってる人間っていうのはあんまりいないですね、基本的に。私自身は独学で始めてます。教わるような環境がなかったんですね。もうやはりすごく職人の数が減ってきてて、全然そんなちゃんと教わるような学校もないし、当然。手塚真理です。27歳ですね。飴細工師が職業です。飴細工とは柔らかくした飴を冷えて固まるまでの間に形を造形する。主に今の飴細工が生まれてきた時代っていうのは江戸時代ですね。江戸時代っていうと1600年。飴細工で作るもの、やはりうちで一番人気なのは金魚だったりとか、あとカエルとか、人気なから、あとは本当に干支ですね。いわゆる十二支ね牛虎なんかはもう昔から飴細工のモチーフとしてあるものなので、成形の時はやはり何しろ時間が決まっていると、もう5分で固まるとなので一番大事なコツはやはり急ぐことですね。とにかく急ぐ、ね、先に先を読んで使いますね。しかも疲れます。とても浅草飴細工飴新という店を営んでおります。そうですね、こういう店はでも意外と多そうですごく少なくて、東京にも うちともう1店あるぐらいで、あくまで飴っていうことで、ね、いずれはなくなるというものではあるんですが、だからこそ力があるなと思ってまして、そうですね、飴細工が日本の文化で重要かって聞かれたら、重要なものだと思うっていうより重要なものにしていくのが私の仕事だと思ってますね。こう進化してちゃんと時代に合わせていいものが残っていくからこそ伝統になると思ってるので、そのシンプルなスタイルっていうのがすごく好きだし、これからもやっぱりそのスタイルに魅力があるからこそ残していきたいって思うし、
Tell us about that, please.
So I talked earlier about how, as a company and as a team, that we've gone beyond just selling advertising. We work with brands to help them tell their stories, and that comes with understanding the tiniest detail and the most important nuance of how a brand would like to be known, would like to be remembered, or certainly by association. And what you would notice in both of those films, particularly in the second one, but even in the first film with Japan Airlines, there's probably the tail of the Japan Airlines aircraft for about 2 seconds or 3 seconds. And that was quite important. And one of the things that we have found, and we've been, again, very privileged, but also quite successful in being able to work with brands, is in what we call the branded content space. And that's largely in digital, but also on other platforms, TV as well as social. And with airlines, with all airlines, not just Japanese airlines, the hardware is the same these days. Most airlines have a Dreamliner, or they have a single-aisle aircraft, et cetera, et cetera. So what makes it different, and what are they trying to communicate? It's the customer experience. And food is a very important part of an airline experience, but not just restricted to food. With Japan Airlines, it was about talking to the audiences in America who may not be familiar. They know that JAL is the national carrier of Japan, but to be able to bring about, through an influencer, the perfection and the detail with which the airline serves their customers. And working with Matt Golden, who is, has got a huge social following, has written a couple of books, including with Bourdain, on Japanese food, is an expert. And so if we don't use our own voice, let's invite an expert who's known, who has a following in the US, and invite him to tell the story, which is for the airline, but not about the airline. And that's quite challenging sometimes. So it takes a bold brand and a very sophisticated client to understand the nuance. With ANA, the opportunity was for a campaign in Europe, again, with a very heated or overheated market in the aviation business in Europe, for ANA to be known as a carrier that has a network to Japan and beyond Japan to Asia. For the European long-haul traveler, it was quite important. And we went around and looked at, many ways in which we could help them tell their story. And we hit upon something which helped us kind of elaborate. And we came up with this term called, or we embraced the term, we didn't come up with it, called Ichigo Ichie, which is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And so we took that and we said, with great big story, and we said, let's go and find stories that are so unique that you have to travel to Japan and you have to have that once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's not about the monetary value, it's about being able to experience it firsthand. And food, as we know, is visual, it's sensory, but it's also about memories. And we created this campaign under the tagline of Ichigo Ichie. And the sculpted candy story is one of the highest performing ones from the lot. There's another one called on wasabi, and the true story of wasabi, which has done millions of views on YouTube. But the opportunity was, how do you help a brand tell a story without talking about their product? And how do you do that through the authenticity that CNN brings to the table, with the quality that Create, our brand studio, has delivered, and then with the audiences that we deliver at scale. So those were the two, and we have kind of many more such, opportunities that we work on, where we get under the skin and we find the actual sweet spot of what is it that will help tell that story. And by the way, more recently in Asia, whether it's Thailand, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's Malaysia, Hong Kong, food is a common theme. And so for my team and myself, it's very much about how do you find that unique point of differentiation, and how do you go away and tell the stories that hold the mirror up, but are interesting enough for international travelers to make a date in the diary when they are coming to the destination to experience that. And we had that with Hanoi and the egg coffee. The little guy who runs the egg coffee store in Hanoi is and will be, I guess, eternally grateful to CNN, because now he is so busy. You've got to have there's a lineup when we did the story on egg coffee.
So it's keeping the balance between the intimacy of that personal interaction with the massiveness of the network. I have to laugh because Candyman is, to me, one of my favorite executions ever, and I had to laugh looking out at Su Jing because I could see, I know you have a sweet tooth, sir. And as soon as the Candyman came on, I thought, when you said about reaching the sweet spot, I think you hit the sweet spot immediately with many people. To your point in terms of gastronomy being an access point to audiences that take them to a place, you've done work with Culinary Journeys in the last couple of minutes that we have. Can you explain to us? I'm going to play the quick video and explain to us a little bit about this.
Incredible. Fat is so amazing.
This is a fairly major operation.
This is the simulation for the student to do their training.
Very tasty.
We're in this together, brother.
On that, now Culinary Journeys, now Jacinta, where are you in the audience? Because I saw you kindly tweeted out from Terroir, which is an Irish organization around gastronomy and tourism, for which CNN recently won an award for Culinary Journeys.
Yes.
Tell us about Culinary Journeys in the last few seconds.
So I think that little kind of sizzle reel shows you how seriously we take the topic of food and the storytelling around food, and that we do that through our own very well-known personalities and anchors, like Richard Quest and obviously Anthony Bourdain works with us, but also we invite experts from the field, and that's what Culinary Journeys is. We launched the show in 2015, where we saw a huge increase in our audiences and their interest in stories about food, and we felt there was a place and a need to be able to invite chefs from, on a global stage to a show, which is every month, to talk about the ingredients, their influence, and what makes them do what they do. But during that conversation, cook a meal and share, their passion recipes. It's been very successful. It's been not just consumed on television, but we have huge social following as well as on digital. And that's just one program. As you saw there, there's a whole kind of menu of shows and content that we have that's focused on food. And so I think when you talk about tourism and talk about gastronomy as a strategic pillar, we have been focusing on it as a storyteller. We also have been working with a number of the brands and destinations to tell their food story, which is unique. And I think finally it's about audiences and how they are consuming stories on food. They're getting more discerning, they're getting more demanding, but they're also sharing a lot of it. And that's, ultimately that's a great testimony for a brand or for a destination.
Brilliant, thank you. And as our little red light starts to flitter on that we're 2 minutes over the sharing time, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause please to Sunita for what she shared with us in terms of destination economy.
Thank you
very much.